The laughter at my parents' anniversary party echoed through the hall, but I stood in the corner, pretending not to care. My mother's sharp voice sliced through the noise. "No one likes the food you cook, Alex," she said loudly, as if the whole room needed to hear. My dad chuckled beside her. "Yeah, leave the cooking to people who know what they're doing." The guests laughed. Even my sister smirked, whispering something to her fiancé. My chest tightened, but I forced a smile. "Got it," I said, swallowing my anger. They always mocked me, my career, my choices, even my hobby of cooking. What they didn't know was that I'd been quietly training under a professional chef for months, saving up for something big. That night, after everyone left, I cleaned the dishes they'd mocked me for making. My mother passed by with her usual sigh. "You're wasting your time," she muttered. "You'll never be good enough to run a restaurant." I didn't argue. Instead, I looked her in the eyes and said softly, "You might be right, but maybe I'll find out for myself." The next morning I packed my knives, my few savings, and left home for the last time. I moved to a small town 2 hours away and started working as a dishwasher in a busy restaurant. It was hard, burned hands, long hours, almost no sleep, but I kept going. Every insult they'd thrown at me replayed in my mind like fuel. Months passed. My skills sharpened. The head chef started trusting me with small dishes. Customers noticed. Compliments turned into regulars. And soon I wasn't the dishwasher anymore. I was the one crafting the specials on the menu. Still, I couldn't forget that night, their laughter, their words. Somewhere deep down, I knew I'd face them again. I just didn't know when, or how satisfying that moment would be. 2 years passed before that moment arrived. I'd gone from a quiet line cook to the head chef of a cozy high-end restaurant on the edge of town called the Ember Table. The name came from something I'd always believed. Even the smallest flame can grow into something powerful if it's protected long enough. My team became my family. We worked late nights, testing recipes, refining sauces, plating with precision. Every dish carried a story, a piece of who I'd been and who I was becoming. Word spread fast. Food critics started showing up. Then influencers. Then finally, local newspapers wrote about the young chef with fire in his hands. But the real moment came when my manager approached me one afternoon with an odd smile. "We've got a big reservation for Saturday night. 20 guests. Private dining room." His name? Henderson. Froze. Henderson, my family's last name. My parents. My sister. The ones who'd told me no one liked my food. I said nothing for a long time. My manager noticed my expression. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "Everything's perfect." Saturday came. I dressed differently that night. Crisp white jacket, polished knife set, every movement deliberate. I didn't tell anyone who the guests were. I wanted them to experience my food before realizing whose hands made it. From behind the kitchen window, I saw them enter. Mom in her expensive pearls, Dad with his usual arrogance, my sister arm in arm with her husband. They laughed, completely unaware. The service began. I sent out the first course, roasted pumpkin soup with smoked paprika cream, a dish I'd once made for my parents when I was 16, the one they'd called inedible. I watched from the shadows as Mom took her first spoonful. Her eyes widened slightly, then softened. Dad looked at her. "This is actually good," he murmured. Course after course went out. Herb-crusted salmon, caramelized shallots, a lemon tart with lavender whipped cream. Their laughter grew quieter, replaced by the kind of silence that happens when people are genuinely moved. When dessert was served, I finally stepped out from the kitchen. The room fell completely still. "Alex," my sister said, her voice trembling. He nodded. "Welcome to the Ember Table. I hope the food was better this time." You could have heard a pin drop. My mother's fork slipped from her hand. My father cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. This is your restaurant?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, steady. "Built it from scratch. Every recipe here started in that same kitchen you told me to stay out of." Mom's eyes filled with something between shame and pride. "We didn't know," she started. I know, I said, cutting her off gently. You didn't have to. There was no bitterness in my tone, just calm truth. Years of anger had burned away, leaving only resolve. My sister stood up first and hugged me. You did it, Alex, she whispered. You actually did it. My father tried to make small talk about how proud they were, but his voice cracked halfway through. I smiled politely and thanked them for dining with us. When they left, I watched from the window as they walked out, quieter than they'd ever been. That night, after everyone was gone, I sat in the kitchen surrounded by empty plates and fading laughter. I thought about the boy who once stood at that party, humiliated and angry. That version of me was gone. The food they once mocked had become my language, my redemption. And for the first time I realized, I didn't cook to prove them wrong anymore. Cooked because it made me feel alive. The next morning I got a text from my mother. We're proud of you, son. Can we come again sometime? I looked at the screen for a long time before replying. Course. But this time make a reservation like everyone else. Then I put the phone down, tied my apron, and went back to the kitchen, where the only voices that mattered now were the ones that said, Chef, order up. A month later, the Ember table was featured in a regional food magazine. The headline read, From family reject to culinary star, the chef who turned insult into inspiration. My parents saw it, of course. They called again, this time sounding softer, more human. We'd love to bring some friends to dinner, my dad said awkwardly. Sure, I replied. But I'll have to check availability. We're booked months in advance. There was a pause, the kind that carries both pride and guilt. We'll wait, he finally said. When they arrived that weekend, I didn't feel anger. Felt peace. They were older, humbled somehow. During dessert, Mom reached for my hand. You were right to leave, she said quietly. We just didn't see what you were capable of. I smiled, not with triumph but closure. You don't have to. I did. After they left, I locked up and stood outside the restaurant, looking at the glowing sign above the door. The same hands they once told to stop cooking had built everything behind those walls. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was freedom. I walked down the quiet street, the scent of roasted herbs and baked bread lingering in the air, thinking how sometimes the best way to win isn't to fight. It's to rise so high that their words can't reach you anymore. If you've ever been told you're not good enough, remember. Success doesn't need to shout. Let your work, your growth, and your peace do the talking. Build quietly, rise steadily, and one day, even the ones who doubted you will have no choice but to respect your silence.